Hey there, beautiful souls. Welcome back to Healthy Glow Vibes, where we truly believe that every chapter of life shines with its own unique glow. Today, we're diving into something that can really transform not just our homes, but our hearts too. Creating a more peaceful and functional space by letting go of a few things. You know how they say a cluttered space can lead to a cluttered mind? As we gracefully move through our golden years, simplifying our surroundings can bring such a wonderful sense of calm and clarity. It's not about making huge changes, but rather those gentle shifts that turn everyday living into a joy. So, if you're ready to welcome a little more serenity into your sanctuary, let's get started. Remember that blissful feeling when you walk into a room and take a deep, satisfying breath? A space where everything feels just right, where the light shines a bit brighter and the air feels lighter? That feeling doesn't just happen by chance. It's the outcome of thoughtful choices made to create a space that uplifts you, rather than one that quietly saps your energy. For many of us, our homes tell the story of our lives, each souvenir, gift, and receipt holding a little piece of our journey. But over time, those stories can start to feel like a burden, weighing us down and keeping us from truly relaxing. Imagine for a moment an old cherished bookshelf. It's packed with novels you devoured years ago, cookbooks that have never seen the light of day, and a few dusty photo albums. Each item tells a story, yet they've been sitting there for ages, untouched, just occupying space. Maybe you even feel a little guilty every time you glance at them, a quiet reminder of a past passion or a project that never got off the ground. This isn't about wiping away your history. It's about honoring the moments that truly matter and giving them the room they deserve. If you've ever felt that gentle tug from your belongings, that subtle sense of being weighed down by stuff, you're definitely not alone. It's a feeling many of us share. And perhaps you found yourself staring at a cluttered corner, wondering, why am I holding on to this? The secret to this process is to take your time. Think of it as a leisurely stroll through a garden you've nurtured for years. You're not yanking out every plant. You're simply trimming back the ones that have had their time to shine, making space for new growth. This journey is about honoring what has served you well and, with a sense of gratitude, letting it go. It's about crafting a living space that genuinely reflects who you are today and who you aspire to be tomorrow. Our homes are truly our sanctuaries. They're the places where we unwind, recharge, and create cherished memories with our loved ones. A calm and organized home can be an incredible source of comfort and strength. It has the power to lower stress, enhance sleep, and even spark creativity. What's really surprising is the immediate effect it can have. You might think decluttering is a daunting task, but the relief that washes over you after letting go of just one small item can genuinely be transformative. It's almost like a magical moment when a weight you didn't even know you were carrying is lifted off your shoulders. This isn't about extreme minimalism. You don't have to live with just a bed and a chair. It's about living thoughtfully. It's about valuing quality over quantity and purpose over mere possessions. So, if you're ready to welcome a little more tranquility into your home, let's embark on this journey together. We can start with a few simple yet powerful steps that can change your space and, in turn, your heart. If you've ever gazed at a room and yearned for a bit more peace, you know exactly what I mean. You're definitely not alone in wanting a calmer, more inviting environment. We all have them, don't we? Those little treasures we cling to, stashed away in drawers or closets, quietly whispering, just in case. Maybe it's that old vase from a gift you can barely remember, a stack of manuals for appliances you've long since parted with, or a spare button from a coat you tossed out 5 years ago. We convince ourselves we're being smart and prepared. But honestly, these just-in-case items often turn into a silent weight, cluttering our space and adding to that nagging feeling of overwhelm. Think about it. opening a closet and having things tumble out, or sifting through a mountain of papers just to find one document, only to get lost in the chaos. That little jolt of anxiety, that exasperated sigh, that's the burden of just in case inaction. It's not just about the physical space these items take up, it's the mental energy they drain. Every time you spot that box of old magazines, you're reminded of a task you've been avoiding. Each time you open a drawer stuffed with tangled cords, you're confronted with a problem that doesn't even exist anymore. This feeling is so common, and if you ever felt that quiet tug, that subtle drain on your energy, you know exactly what I mean. But here's the kicker. This habit can really weigh on our hearts. We hang on to these things out of fear of needing them in the future, fear of what if. What if I need that old cable someday? What if this outdated gadget becomes useful again? We get so caught up in worrying about hypothetical future problems that we forget about the very real issue of living in a cluttered, stressful present. Just imagine the relief, the lightness you'll feel when that physical weight is finally lifted. Trust me, it's incredibly freeing. It's a moment of clarity that can completely change your perspective. Let's dive a little deeper into this. A friend of mine, the lovely Martha, had a closet she hadn't dared to open in years. It was like a time capsule filled with just-in-case items. Inside, she found 7 coffee mugs from various promotions, a dozen empty shoe boxes, and a pile of old phone chargers for devices she no longer even owned. For years, she would just shut the door, avoiding the chaotic mess lurking behind it. She knew it was there, and it nagged at her, but she felt completely lost on where to begin. Then one day, she decided it was time to confront the clutter. She pulled everything out onto her bed, creating a mountain of just-in-case items. As she picked up one of the coffee mugs, she realized she had a favorite mug she used every morning. The other 7, just taking up space. When she glanced at the shoe boxes, she couldn't help but laugh. She hadn't touched a single one in over 10 years. And those phone chargers? She was shocked to find so many for phones she hadn't seen in ages. It was a real eye-opener. As she began sorting through her belongings, she wasn't just tossing things aside. She was making thoughtful choices about what truly mattered to her. She was reclaiming her space piece by piece. And in that moment, as she filled up a donation box, she felt an incredible sense of freedom. Those just-in-case items weren't just clutter. They were little reminders of a life that had moved on. Letting them go wasn't about losing something. It was about creating space, finding peace, and clearing her mind. The takeaway here isn't about being wasteful. It's about being intentional. It's about asking yourself, does this item serve me in my life today? If the answer is no, it might be time to gently let it go and make room for something that truly brings you joy. Many of us have experienced this, and if you've ever felt the weight of accumulated stuff, you know exactly what I mean. Our next topic dives into health and well-being, particularly what we keep in our medicine cabinets and vanity drawers. You'd be surprised at how quickly old medications, expired lotions, and forgotten beauty products can pile up. They tend to hide in the quiet corners of our bathrooms, gathering dust on shelves and lurking at the back of drawers. Not only do they take up precious space, but expired items can also lose their effectiveness or even pose a risk to our health. Think about that bottle of pain reliever you bought ages ago, or that special cream you intended to use but never got around to finishing. We cling to these items, hoping they might come in handy someday, but the reality is that their potency fades over time. Sometimes their chemical makeup can even change, making them potentially unsafe. It's a subtle kind of clutter, yet it can have a direct impact on our physical well-being. So take a moment to check those expiration dates. safely toss anything that's past its prime. It's a simple step, but it ensures that what you keep is fresh, effective, and safe for you. Plus, as you clear out the old, you'll likely feel a refreshing sense of order and care for your personal health. And you might be shocked at just how many expired items you uncover hiding right in front of you. Let's picture a scenario many of us can relate to. My friend Clara, a wonderful woman in her late 70s, had a medicine cabinet that truly reflected her life. It was a chaotic mix of items: half-empty bottles of antibiotics from a past illness, a tube of sunburn cream from a long-ago vacation, and various vitamins she had started but never finished. Every time she needed something, she had to dig through this mountain of bottles and jars, often feeling a quiet frustration. It was a minor inconvenience, but it happened almost daily, serving as a constant reminder that her space wasn't really working for her. One afternoon, her granddaughter came over to lend a hand. They decided to take on the medicine cabinet together. With her fresh perspective, the granddaughter began pulling out items one by one: the expired aspirin, the ancient cough syrup, and the lotion that had bizarrely separated into a strange liquid and solid. At first, Claire felt a bit taken aback, even a little defensive. "Oh, I might need that one day," she would insist. But as they continued, the reality of the situation started to sink in. So many of these items posed a risk rather than being helpful. If you've ever found yourself staring at an expired product thinking, "This can't be real, can it?" then you can relate to Clara's initial disbelief. What began as a simple cleaning chore turned into a moment of deep reflection. As they cleared out the cabinet, a sense of lightness began to fill the space. They weren't just tossing things out, they were crafting a safe, functional environment. By the time they finished, the cabinet was neatly organized, with only the essentials in place. Clara's face brightened. She realized that by clinging to all those items, she had been unknowingly putting herself at a small but unnecessary risk. The satisfaction of having a tidy, well-organized cabinet brought her a profound sense of peace. It was a small change, but it carried a significant emotional weight. She felt more in control, more prepared, and more cared for. This uplifting feeling is something that stays with those who experience it. It's a reminder of how even the simplest actions can lead to a greater sense of security and well-being. Let's dive into the topic of duplicates. How many can openers do you really need? Or what about those multiple sets of measuring spoons? Sometimes we end up with extras without even realizing it. Maybe you picked up a new can opener because the old one was nowhere to be found, only to stumble upon it a week later. Or you might have received a second set of measuring cups as a gift. These duplicates can quietly accumulate, transforming our functional spaces into cluttered chaos. This isn't about depriving ourselves. It's about making life easier. Keeping just the best, most useful version of an item not only clears up space, but also streamlines your daily routines. Picture this: reaching for exactly what you need every time, without having to dig through unnecessary clutter. Now, think about the little annoyance of searching for a matching lid for a container, only to find you have 3 containers and 5 mismatched lids that don't fit any of them. That's the result of having too many duplicates. It's a small, everyday struggle that can wear you down without you even noticing. The tricky part is that these items often seem good enough, so we hold on to them, even if they're not the best. But if you have 2 can openers, one rusty and hard to use, and the other brand new and working like a charm, why keep the old one? It just adds to the clutter. Things were starting to feel a bit overwhelming, but there was a glimmer of hope on the horizon. Let me share a little story about my neighbor, Frank. Frank was one of those genuinely nice guys who had a real passion for his tools. His garage was packed to the brim with them, but it was such a mess that he could never find what he was looking for. He owned 3 hammers, 2 of which had handles that wobbled like they were about to give up, and 4 tape measures, 2 of which were bent and totally unreliable. It seemed like he spent more time hunting for a tool than actually using one. His garage had become a testament to his good intentions. He wanted to be ready for any project that came his way, but instead it turned into a source of frustration. It felt like a trap. The tools that were meant to simplify his life had in fact made it more complicated. And in that moment, you realize how much easier life can be when you have less clutter. One Saturday, his grandson, who was visiting, offered to help him tidy up the garage. At first, Frank was a bit reluctant, but his grandson was determined. They kicked things off with the hammers. They tested each one out. The old, rusty ones went into a to-be-recycled box, while the lone, sturdy hammer found its place on a pegboard. They tackled the tape measures, screwdrivers, and pliers in the same way. They were tough but sensible, keeping only the best and most useful tools. As they worked, a sense of order began to take shape. The chaos transformed into a neat, functional space. Frank's face lit up as he witnessed the transformation. He wasn't just clearing out clutter, he was building a system. He was making his space work for him rather than against him. There's something incredibly satisfying about finding exactly what you need just when you need it. It's a little victory that can really lighten your load and make tasks feel a lot more enjoyable. Frank learned through this experience that having more stuff doesn't always mean better. In fact, a handful of high-quality, dependable items can be way more valuable than a pile of average ones. As he hung that one trusty hammer on the pegboard, he realized just how much time he'd save and how much frustration he'd dodge in the future. If you've ever been on a quest for something you know you own, only to discover you have 3 of them, you'll totally get where he's coming from. It's a moment of clarity that can really shift how you think about your whole home. Our wardrobes can be a treasure trove of memories, but they can also become a hidden source of stress. We often cling to clothes that no longer fit, items that have seen better days, or styles that just don't make us feel good anymore. These aren't merely pieces of fabric. They serve as silent reminders of a past we can't revisit or a future we haven't quite reached yet. Think of that beautiful dress from a wedding a decade ago that's now too tight, or those pants you bought with the hope of losing weight, and that faded sweater with the mysterious stain. They all occupy space, and more importantly, they take up mental real estate. Consider how it feels to open your closet each morning. Is it a calm, peaceful moment where you can easily find something that makes you feel confident and comfortable? Or is it a stressful chore, a frustrating hunt through a sea of clothes that don't fit or just don't feel right? That nagging feeling of inadequacy, the whisper of, "I wish I could still wear that," can impact your mood for the entire day. But things were starting to change, and this chapter was ready to be rewritten. Let me introduce you to my friend Helen. Helen's closet was like a monument to her past. It was filled with beautiful, high-quality clothes from her career days, elegant outfits she wore to parties, and casual wear from a time when her body was different. They were all still there, packed tightly, many still with the tags on, as if waiting for a moment that would never arrive. Every time she glanced at them, she felt a pang of sadness. She wasn't living in the past, but her closet certainly was. It was a physical representation of an identity she had moved on from, and it was holding her back. One weekend, Helen's daughter came over and suggested they tackle the closet together. At first, Helen felt a bit reluctant. After all, those were her clothes, filled with memories. But her daughter was gentle yet insistent. "Mom," she said, "we're not getting rid of your memories. We're just making room for the person you are today." They began with the items that were clearly too small. They set aside a donate pile for the nice clothes and a recycle pile for the worn out ones. Helen was taken aback by how many clothes she had been clinging to. Some pieces were so old that the elastic had given out, while others were so out of style they were nearly unrecognizable. As she gazed at the growing pile, a light bulb went off in her head. She realized she wasn't losing anything. She was actually gaining space, gaining the chance to see and appreciate the beautiful clothes that fit her perfectly now. When she tried on a favorite outfit, a soft blue cardigan paired with comfy slacks, she looked in the mirror and smiled, feeling a wave of genuine confidence wash over her. It was a wonderful feeling, a mix of relief and joy. This process isn't just about tossing out memories. It's about making room for who you are today. It's about letting go of clothes that no longer serve you and embracing the ones that bring you joy and confidence. Think about donating gently used items to someone who will truly appreciate them. You're not just clearing out your closet, you're also making space for clothes that celebrate who you are right now. That feeling of true self-acceptance is unforgettable. It's a powerful reminder that our worth isn't tied to the clothes we used to wear, but to the person we are in this moment. What would you do if you were in her position?
Hobbies are such a delight, don't you think? They add joy and a sense of purpose to our lives. Yet, there are times when our excitement for a new craft fades, leaving us with a stash of unused supplies. Those knitting needles from a project that never took off, the half-finished puzzle collecting dust in the corner, or the set of paints you impulsively bought. Each of these items symbolizes good intentions and passing interests, but they can also stir up a bit of guilt. They serve as tangible reminders of a hobby that didn't quite take off or a creative venture that was left behind. Imagine glancing at a pile of untouched yarn. It was meant to transform into a lovely sweater for a grandchild, but maybe the project turned out to be too intricate, or perhaps your interest simply faded. That nagging thought of, "I really should finish that," can weigh heavily on your mind. It's a soft, persistent tug, a little mental note that lingers, adding to the background chatter in your head. There's no shame in letting go of a hobby that no longer brings you joy. If your supplies are still in good shape, consider donating them to a local community center or passing them on to a friend who might appreciate them. Letting go of these items can create room for new interests or just a bit more openness in your home. And if you've ever embarked on a creative project with great enthusiasm, only to see it sit unfinished, you know exactly what I mean. Let me share a story about my friend David. David was a man brimming with passions. At one point, he decided he wanted to dive into painting landscapes. He went all out, buying a stunning easel, a complete set of oil paints, and a variety of brushes. He even set up a cozy little studio in his spare room and painted for a few weeks. But soon enough, he realized that the detailed work just wasn't his thing. Before long, the easel was folded away and the paints were pushed aside, gathering dust. What was once a space for creative expression turned into a shrine for an abandoned hobby. David rarely ventured in there, and when he did, he felt a twinge of disappointment. It became a room that held the promise of a dream that had faded away. One day, his daughter came by to lend a hand with organizing. She gently inquired about the painting supplies, and David let out a sigh as he shared the story behind them. She proposed that they donate the supplies to a local senior art class. At first, David felt a bit reluctant. It seemed like admitting defeat. But as they began packing the box, a shift occurred within him. He realized he wasn't giving up on a dream. Instead, he was offering someone else the chance to chase theirs. He was consciously choosing to release something that had been holding him back, giving it a fresh start. When he placed the last tube of paint into the box, a wave of relief washed over him. It felt as if a heavy burden had been lifted. The room now felt empty and open, ready to welcome something new. This experience imparted a profound lesson. His value wasn't tied to the hobbies he completed, but rather to the joy he discovered in the journey. He came to understand that a space cluttered with unfinished projects is a space that shuts the door on new opportunities. By letting go of the unused craft supplies, he wasn't just clearing out a room, he was liberating his mind. He was making space for new adventures, fresh interests, and ways to spend his time that genuinely brought him joy. This moment of giving back and releasing the old for the sake of the new is something that stays with those who experience it. It's a lesson in embracing the present and celebrating the endless possibilities of the future rather than holding on to the shadows of the past.
Let's talk about something that can really tug at the heartstrings: sentimental items. These are often the toughest to let go of because they're packed with memories. They're not just objects, they're physical links to the people and moments we hold dear. Think about a small wooden bird your late father carved, a box filled with your kids' drawings, or a stack of postcards from old friends. We cling to these items because we feel they carry the essence of those memories, as if parting with them means losing the feelings attached. Yet sometimes, a collection of cherished trinkets, photos, or heirlooms can start to feel overwhelming, especially if they don't have a special spot or purpose in our lives. Imagine opening a dusty box and finding a chaotic mix of faded photos and ticket stubs. You know they matter, but when they're all jumbled together, they create more chaos than nostalgia. This isn't about throwing away memories, it's about honoring them. Pick a few that truly speak to your heart and display them with care. For the rest, think about snapping some photos or passing them along to family members who would treasure them. The goal is to create a space where memories are celebrated, not buried under clutter. You might be amazed at how much lighter your heart feels when these beloved memories are treated with the respect they deserve. Let me tell you about my dear friend Eleanor. She inherited a house brimming with beautiful treasures from her mother, a passionate collector. This house was like a museum of her life, filled with delicate porcelain dolls, antique teacups, and an extensive collection of family photographs that spanned generations. Eleanor cherished her mother deeply, and each item felt like a precious legacy. However, the sheer amount of stuff was daunting. She couldn't showcase everything, so many of the most cherished pieces ended up tucked away in boxes in the attic, forgotten and out of sight. The house felt heavy, more like a burden than a home. Just when she was on the verge of giving up, something wonderful happened. One afternoon, her granddaughter came over to help her tackle the attic. Her granddaughter was practical, yet kind. She picked up a lovely silver locket and asked, "Grandma, what's the story behind this?" Eleanor's face brightened as she recounted how her grandmother received it as a wedding gift. Her granddaughter then suggested, "How about we get this cleaned up so you can wear it sometimes? It's such a shame for it to be hidden away." Eleanor felt a rush of warmth at the thought. It was such a simple question, but it changed everything. Instead of just being the keeper of her family's memories, she could actually engage with them. They certainly didn't toss everything out. Instead, they made thoughtful decisions. They put together a stunning photo album featuring their favorite snapshots. A few of the most beautiful teacups found a home in a display cabinet. The rest were either donated to a museum or given to family members who would treasure a piece of their history. The act of making those choices, of being deliberate about what to keep, felt incredibly liberating. The old house started to transform into her home, brimming with stories and memories that felt vibrant and alive. This journey isn't just about letting go of the past. It's about curating it, ensuring that the items left behind can truly shine. That sense of empowerment and connection is something truly special, a feeling that stays with those who experience it forever.
let's take a moment to talk about our reading materials. You know, that stack of magazines from months back, or those books you've been meaning to dive into but haven't touched in ages? They can really contribute to that nagging feeling of unfinished business. We've all been there. You buy a book with the best intentions, set it on your nightstand or bookshelf, and then it just sits there gathering dust. Those unread books aren't just clutter. They're a quiet source of stress, a reminder of tasks left undone. They linger there, silently judging us. Now, think about how many unread books can pile up. There's that book club pick you never got around to finishing, a historical novel that caught your eye but lost its appeal, and a stack of magazines filled with articles you promised yourself you'd read. These aren't just taking up space on your shelves, they're occupying mental space too. Every time you glance at them, it's a reminder of a promise you made to yourself that you haven't fulfilled. It's a small but constant drain on your energy. Let me share a bit about my friend Martha. She was a passionate reader in her younger days, and her love for books never faded. Her home was a treasure trove of bookshelves overflowing with titles. Some she had devoured, but just as many remained untouched. Her bedside table resembled a tower of unread bestsellers. She adored the thought of reading them all, but the sheer number of choices often left her feeling overwhelmed. More often than not, she found herself staring at the books she hadn't read instead of enjoying the ones she had. One day, Martha's granddaughter, a thoughtful and organized young woman, came over for a visit. Spotting the towering stack of books on Martha's bedside table, she asked, "Grandma, have you read all of these?" Martha let out a sigh, feeling a bit defeated. "Not yet, dear," she replied. "I plan to, but I just can't seem to get through them all." Her granddaughter gently proposed, "If you're not going to read them, maybe someone else would enjoy them. How about we donate some to the local library?" At first, Martha hesitated. It felt like giving up, but her granddaughter rephrased it. "Think of it this way," she said. "You're not abandoning reading. You're just making space for the books you really want to dive into right now. You're giving these books a chance at a new life and purpose." That idea struck a chord with Martha. They began with the magazines, gathering all the old issues and tossing them into a recycling bin. Then they tackled the books. Martha sifted through her shelves, pulling out the ones she knew she wouldn't read again and those she had no interest in starting. With each book she added to the donation box, she felt a little lighter. She wasn't losing her love for reading, she was refining it. She was curating a collection of books that really excited her. The experience taught her a valuable lesson. By clinging to books she had no interest in reading, she was actually holding herself back from fully enjoying the one she loved. By the end of her journey, her bookshelves transformed from a source of stress into a source of joy. They were now filled with her favorite stories, and there was finally room for new ones. The sight of that tidy, organized space brought her immense relief. This moment of liberating yourself from the pressure to read those unwanted books is genuinely freeing. It's a memorable lesson in living in the moment and choosing to surround yourself and your home with what truly matters to you right now. Thank you for being here with me today on Healthy Glow Vibes. I hope this chat has ignited a fresh sense of possibility in your heart and home. Remember, the aim isn't to have an empty house, it's to lead a full life. It's about crafting a space that feels like a warm embrace, a sanctuary where you can truly unwind and be yourself. The journey of decluttering isn't just about getting rid of physical items. It's a meaningful act of self-care. It's about letting go of past burdens to welcome the joys of the present. Think about the feelings we've discussed today. The lightness, the clarity, the peace. That feeling is within your grasp. It's not a final destination. It's a journey, and every small intentional step you take brings you closer. Maybe you start with just one drawer. Perhaps it's that stack of magazines. Or maybe it's that old vase sitting in the corner. Whatever it is, take a moment to feel proud of your decision to begin.
As you set off on this journey, keep in mind that your home truly reflects your heart. When you create the serene and beautiful environment, you're also nurturing the calm and beauty that resides within you. It's a powerful give and take relationship. The energy you invest in your home comes back to you tenfold. If this message resonates with you and you believe that a more peaceful home can lead to a more vibrant life, I'd love for you to share your thoughts in the comments below. Maybe you've already started your own decluttering adventure, or perhaps you're just getting going. I'm eager to hear which of the 7 items you plan to tackle first. This community is a warm and supportive space, and sharing our journeys helps us all grow together. Connecting with you means so much to me. I truly believe that each of us has a beautiful, vibrant glow that shines from within. My mission with Healthy Glow Vibes is to help you nurture that glow and find joy in every season of your life. If you're looking for more ways to enhance your well-being and embrace the vibrancy of life, I invite you to check out our other videos. There's a treasure trove of wisdom waiting for you, crafted just for you. From mindful movement to simple nourishing recipes, we have content to support every step of your journey. So, I warmly invite you to hit that subscribe button and join our community of beautiful souls. Don't miss our next episode, where we'll dive into the power of morning routines to set a peaceful tone for your entire day. Until then, keep shining brightly and cherish the beautiful glow within you. Remember, a peaceful home is just a few intentional choices away.